It was mid.
10,000. Oh,
Here
real
we
quick,
go.
Brandon. Have you
Yeah.
seen The Way of Water is up to 7K now?
No,
Just
I
like the
didn't.
real Avatar, it's making money with no one paying attention. It keeps rising. It just
Wow.
keeps rising. People keep watching that review. I don't know why.
All right.
The sea rises.
The sea rise.
So we're going to be talking about John Wick Chapter 4, the fourth film in the John Wick franchise. Keanu Reeves, directed by Chad Stahelski, written by Shay, Hatten, and Michael Finch. This is their first time writing in the franchise. We actually talked about it when I believe Derek Kolstad was taken off the project, and then they came on board. So full spoilers. If you have not seen John Wick Chapter 4. It's up to you, but I would prefer you not to watch this anymore.
I think you should see a better movie, Shazam! Fury of the Gods, but that's just my personal opinion. I'm just kidding. I'm just being a goofy goofster.
I should have seen that movie. I would have heard about it less. So sometimes I crack myself up. So full spoilers. If you have not seen the movie, pause it, go watch it. Pause this, go watch that movie, and then come back and check us out. So what do we think about John Wick Chapter 4?
I loved it.
All right, Ben.
To the surprise of no one, I also loved it.
Yeah, and you just watched Chapter 3 too, so you
I
went at
did.
3 to 4.
Yeah, I went directly from number 3 to number 4, and I have to say I do agree. 3, not the best, still good, not the best of the John Wick films.
He wasn't on the review for that. I remembered last minute.
Yeah.
Sparkz?
May just be the best of the John Wick franchise.
Yeah.
I don't think I agree with it being the best. I still like 2 a lot.
It's this and 2. And right now I'm kind of leaning towards this.
But this is excellent. Really, really excellent.
So when I first heard about the 3-hour runtime, I'm like, that's a long ass action movie. Because one of the complaints that I have with 3 is, despite all the action being good, I don't think it all serves the story, and there's some like repetitive stuff where it's like, I don't feel it's progressing as much. This movie being 3 hours, surprisingly, the pace I think is incredible. Mm-hmm. There's so much, because it has so much more runtime, there's so much more story, but there's also so much more action, and the flow between them is like perfect. Like it feels like I didn't like, obviously you feel 3 hours. That's a long time. You do anything for 3 hours, you feel it. But like, I was enjoying every minute of this movie.
I think you're absolutely right that the idea that like what this runtime allows it to do is include more of that kind of emotionality that was missing in the third film. We kind of bring back the kind of the John Wick from the first film, because the first film is really different than the next 3. It's a lot more dramatic. There's a lot less action in it. And we get a little bit more of that drama put back into the franchise, put back into this movie. We have a lot of, characters being extrapolated on, expanded on, some that would not get the chance to be. And this cast, isn't they just introduce a new character? I feel for every new character that was introduced, and every villain is super cool. That's what the 3-hour runtime allows you to do. And if it's paced well enough, I don't care.
Yeah.
I think it is paced well.
No, I will say I didn't realize about the almost 3-hour runtime until I was looking up times for the movie today. And I was kind of shocked. I was like, damn, this is going to go that long. But like Ryan said, you don't feel the runtime necessarily. Everything, the only time where I was really feeling was like, part of me was hoping the movie would end quick so I could, go to the restroom. But besides that, it did not feel like a 3-hour movie. It didn't feel like a slog. I wasn't taken out of the action. There were so many amazing shots. If I were to say any sort of negative about Chapter 4, it's that you can definitely tell that, you can definitely tell there's going to be a big action sequence coming up. Like it's like action, story beat. But even though you can tell something is about, like, for example, like we said, full spoilers, right?
Oh yeah.
For example, when the rules are set for the duel and John is getting dressed, and then the hit goes out, the bounty on his head rises, and everyone, and it's like, this isn't going to be easy for him to get to the church. It's going to be a absolute shit show. Nothing is simple for poor John Wick. And even though I was like, is this gonna be a slog? It wasn't. I was like, how you gonna get out of this one, John? The scene, like the traffic fight scene in front of the Arc de Triomphe, was amazing. The overhead shot in the abandoned.
I want to spend 15,000 minutes on that shot. No, let's go. Let's. I'm going to pull you back. I'm going to pull you back to the beginning of the movie. All right. So let's talk. So the beginning of the movie, Winston and Sharon are being introduced to the new Marquis, and played by Bill Skarsgård, right?
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Pennywise himself. He's got his hands in his pockets, like, oh, I see it. Because he's got the wide arm in his pockets. Funny. And they're being punished for basically being John Wick's friends.
Yeah.
And that's why Clancy Brown, great, small role, but great. I really like watching him in this. They're going to demolish the Continental. And they're going to keep demolishing Continentals until they find John Wick.
Yeah, it is. I love Bill Skarsgård's the Marquis. I'm not here to kill John Wick. I'm here to kill the idea of John Wick, and that means burning everything he has ever touched. That means I will kill hundreds of thousands of people. I will burn millions of billions of dollars of property damage. I will do whatever I need to do because the idea of John Wick is worse than John Wick actually himself. Because that means it's the idea of rebellion is what it is.
The Baba Yaga.
The Baba Yaga, yeah. The table has rules, and he's the ultimate rule breaker. And when he's alive, other people will break rules as well. I love it. It's perfect. It's a perfect asshole motivation.
So Sharon is killed.
Yeah.
Lance Reddick's character is killed. A move I didn't see coming. And that death hits a lot harder than it probably would have had Lance Reddick not actually died.
Yeah, obviously. Yeah.
And I think it's a really effective death for Winston. And I don't really know where I'm going with this. I just wanted to bring it up because I think it's a good moment. I think it's a good, solid character moment for all involved.
It's a good background motivation thing for Winston. And I think what strength it has in the script is how it's tied into the conversation later about grave markers. And I didn't know what to put on there and ended up with friend and John's decision of what he wants on his. I think that's all very good and well baked in. I will bring up my one negative about the film, which is that, and part of it is because we watched all four one night in a row going for 4 nights.
4 nights, 4 weeks.
And they have got to come up with, should there be another, which is up in the air. But should there be another, they have got to come up with some different conversations for John to have with characters he encounters than John, killing is who you are. You got to recognize that in yourself, John. You can't run from being a killer. It's who you are. And I'm like, boy, howdy, do some people have to tell John something he doesn't know? Because this is a lot of the conversations John has with characters across all 4 films. And in particular, it bothered me in this one because there's the scene where they're sitting across the table setting up the rules for the duel. And Bill Skarsgård says it twice in 2 different forms of words, but essentially saying the same thing. And I'm like, guys, come on. Like, I get the idea, and I get that like everybody has this idea about John, but holy crap, do we need to think of some different dialogue for these engagements? Because I'm getting real tired of people saying, can't escape what you are, John. You're a killer. That's who you are, John. John, recognize that you are a killer, Mr. Wick.
Like, we know, we watched him do this for 6 hours.
Damn it. And he's heard it. Like, I'm done.
That's fair. It didn't bother me, but you mentioning it, like, no, yeah, you're right. Yeah.
It's specifically that moment where Bill Skarsgård basically says the same sentence, just with different words in a different order. Not 3 minutes apart. And I'm like, whew, we gotta think of some other things to say.
Sure. Yeah.
I didn't even notice that. I gotta be honest. I wanted to rewatch the first 3, and I started watching the first one a couple days ago, but I just got so swamped, and I was like, well, I guess I'm not finishing these.
Yeah.
because I hadn't seen specifically the third one in a while. I wanted to rewatch that one specifically.
It's just like I really enjoy these movies. Obviously, I really enjoy them. I think a weak point in general is that most of John's conversations with adversaries or otherwise, most of them boil down to them telling John, "You just can't escape being the killer you are," and John just kind of being like, okay. And like that's most of his interactions with the characters, the new characters he encounters throughout the films. And I'm like, that gets a little repetitive, especially if you cram them all next to each other. That is a minor knock. It's not really what the movie's about, so it's not that important. But like, if there is to be another with Mr. Wick, I need different conversation material.
The opening, the very beginning of the movie, when the Bowery King walks in and he's doing his monologue, and then he comes in and he lights the flames around John Wick, and time to get to work, John, with the punches. So cool.
Yeah.
So cool.
John says 48 times in this movie. And there was a gentleman behind us where every time John said he laughed. And I'm just like, you just think Keanu Reeves saying it's funny, I guess. That guy talked a lot. He was bothering me.
Yeah, he was bothering me too.
Yo, man, this movie opens up. We're like, hey, remember that weird elder part of 3? We're just gonna kill that guy. We're gonna kill the new guy.
A different elder too. They're like, but my predecessor. All right.
Yeah, I like it. I like that John's just like, no, I just y'all gotta go.
To me, that was very much a like, we don't really know what we were doing with the elder thing either. So we're gonna just kill it. Because I remember that being, and it was still when I rewatched it. Like that's one of my big problems with 3 is I'm like, I just don't really get what this elder shit is for.
I understand like I like the world building of it, and like, this is where the assassins like guild began, but they don't give us enough information. You just have to assume a lot.
To be honest with you, it bothered me that we don't ever see the high table in full.
Yeah.
But we've seen the elders that are above it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that felt weird and wrong.
Yeah. I still think that the high table, like the final movie is going to be like John killing everyone in the high table, and they're all like really famous people. Like, I think that's why we haven't seen any of them yet, because it's going to be like one big like Scott Pilgrim movie.
That'd be pretty great.
Yeah. But I think in some ways they also killed the idea of the high table with this one, because they pointed out that like, John, you killed them. They're fill the seats before you can get to all of them.
It's true.
Because they're never all together.
The Nemesis system.
Yeah. This movie ends like, obviously we're gonna talk about the end later, but like I really like the way this movie's like, this movie does not end the way I thought it was going to.
Yeah.
Not even with just him dying, but it's like the way he gets out basically. Right. But that's 3 hours from now. Man, you pointed to Ben.
Ben, you wanted to say something. You've been trying to say something for like 5 minutes.
I forgot.
Okay, sorry.
Okay. So like the first half of this movie, I know it's like 2 hours 40 something. I'm just gonna call it 3 hours to make it even. Like the first half of this movie, it's like, damn, this is a good John Wick movie. Like if I had to rate the first half of the movie, it'd be like an 8.5. Like, damn, this is another good John Wick movie. The second half of this movie, y'all, it's one of the most insane action movies ever made.
Right.
It is insane action scene to a finale that's like personal, with 2 friends fighting, which has a great like the last half of this movie, like from like the Tokyo Drift murder people just driving around cars to the overhead shot to the final duel. I'm like, there's so much action in this movie. And again, on like 3, we're like, I don't feel overwhelmed by any of it. Like the movie's long enough where we have a lot of action, then we have a lot of story because we have room for it.
There was an interesting thing that happened in this one that didn't happen in 3, as I recall, where let's take the Scott Adkins fight scene, which as it was going and as it was wrapping up, I was like, I don't want this to end.
Yeah,
I'd like to watch more of this.
This is a good side quest. Yeah,
because I like that action
that
scene
scene at his table.
Yeah.
Oh my god, that's so good when he's at the table and he reveals the 5 aces.
Yeah, one who thinks he can buy his way out, one who thinks he can serve his way out, one who thinks he can kill his way out. I thought that was really fun. I really enjoyed that. I will admit that I'm very biased positively towards this film because the entire second half takes place in Paris, and I was like, I was there.
He kept looking like,
there. Yeah, the Louvre is in the wrong place on that map. I was there.
So the first half of this movie, a lot of it takes place like in Japan and Osaka. Hiroyuki Sanada is the manager of the Japanese Continental, which is awesome. Love it.
I love not just going to see another Continental because we saw that in 2. Are you here to kill the Pope? And Hiroyuki Sanada being the Continental and like being really good friends with John, being the manager of the Continental is such a good moment, and we get so much good character work, honestly, even before the action starts, because as he's talking to his concierge and the subtle, and not the subtle nods, but like we know it's his daughter, but maybe not everybody, maybe like the high table doesn't know it's his daughter, and we learn all that just in dialogue as they're just talking about going to lunch, and it's really good. It's really well acted. It's really well written. It's a really solid scene and character introduction.
Yeah. His daughter, she's like a famous musician.
Mm-hmm.
And she like, because I just watched an interview, there's like she's starting to branch out into acting, and Keanu and Chad were watching one of her music videos, and in her music videos she's very athletic and is like, she does a lot of stunts in her music videos, so they were like, hey, we think you'd be good for this part, do you want to audition for it? And she freaked the F out. She's like, absolutely, I've been trying to be an actor. And I think she's great. Akira is the character's name. But yeah, I love John Wick's world building. I love that just like half the world is assassins. I think it's so funny. I love seeing like the cool secretary ladies doing all the things with their tattoos. I just like, anytime you want to world build more, I'm all about it.
One of the things, and I was thinking about this when I was watching Parabellum as well. One of the things that I love about the John Wick movies, especially with their world building, they tell you enough. They don't show you everything. There's still a little bit of mystery, but that little bit of mystery doesn't take you out of the moment. Doesn't take you for some reason, I just love it how John Wick is kind of like Kingsman in a way, where it's Kingsman without the high quality, without like the high spy stuff. Like they have their modern suits, but they're bulletproof. Like I can't tell you how many times John is holding up his suit jacket because it's a bulletproof
I love
suit.
it.
Not just him, but all of the Marquis men.
It is so funny.
Yeah, everyone else has bulletproof suits. But there's all this world building, like there's this world building, and like when Clancy Brown showed up as the Harbinger, and you get the Adjudicator in Parabellum.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like there's all these things, and they reference the table. I'm like,
a tracker.
Cool. Yeah, the tracker. It's
the
like
tracker.
All this is super cool.
Oh, I liked him, by the way.
Mr. Nobody. Oh,
Mr. Nobody.
Loved him.
Yeah. I just love how they mention the table, but you don't see the table and you don't know how powerful these people are. We get a bit of it in 3 with the Elder, but at the same time, I kind of agree with Sparkz of how the Elder is like, he was a big thing in 3, and then in 4 he just dies almost immediately.
Yeah, because it doesn't work in 3.
Even just confined in 3, like, to me, it's a lot of effort for something that ends up being meaningless, because John basically gets to, so again, like a weak script point, but John gets to Winston, and Winston basically says, John, do you want to die a man serving them? And it's like, John should have already known that answer. Like, that doesn't make any sense. Mm-hmm. And to me, the most egregious character crime that I don't think works is that John allows his ring to be given up with no intention of getting it back in that moment. And I'm like, that just doesn't feel like John Wick to me. Like, I think that whole idea just didn't work. This idea of him going to the Elders and giving up his finger and his ring, to me, ends up being kind of meaningless and moot.
Which is, again, why the beginning of this movie...
The beginning of this movie just says, like,
I'm here for my ring.
That didn't work.
And he's like, I'm never getting that ring.
Yeah.
Mag is so right about the sumo wrestlers, the 2 fighters, dude. They were kicking ass, just punching and slapping dudes. Loved it. I
really like seeing Winston, the Bowery King, and John together. I think they have a fun dynamic that I just didn't expect.
Yeah. The Bowery King is now like the Bowery King of like the world. He's going to
he's branching out. He's like, hey,
out.
I see what you assassin guys are doing, and I'm gonna follow you guys.
Eyes and ears all over the world. Love it.
I'm so happy. I know they talked about how the Bowery King was meant to be just a one-time thing, and they ended up liking Lawrence Fishburne so much they kept him, and I'm so happy with that decision, because he's very fun in this movie. Because like all the Bowery King really does is present him with suits, and I found both times to be massively interesting.
Hey, he gets him a boat once.
Remember the still 42 long John?
Yeah. Yeah, and
Lawrence Fishburne
is always just like, like kind of hamming it up. Like again, my favorite line is when he's like, "Someone please get this man a gun." Like he's just always theatrical in everything he does, and it's just like it's really fun. Like he sometimes spins for no reason. I'm like, yeah, all right.
And like it's fun because it's nice when we get into like the boat when John and Winston are talking about the funeral arrangements and the tombstone dialogue, and then the Bowery King is just, I want a king on mine, you know, like he's creates a really fun dynamic that I really appreciate.
Yeah, and you brought up the earlier, but what he wants on his tombstone, John says loving husband, and then when you see it later, Helen's was loving wife, and I'm like, this movie does have emotion. Oh shit.
Mm-hmm. So Donnie Yen is a new character in this movie.
Kane, oh, love it.
God, I love him.
And I'm at man. I could have followed. He could have been the main character of this movie, and I would have been interested too.
He's in so much more of the movie than I thought. I didn't realize he was like the second guy almost.
I like that what they did was they just basically made John Wick's villain in this movie John Wick.
Yeah.
And I think it worked really well. We didn't get any like false starts. No, they're both people who got out, who Kane was brought back in. And given a name, and they're both doing this job, and they're friends, and they respect each other, but they're also incredibly highly skilled assassins who will defend themselves and try to kill each other.
Yeah, I love. It happens with multiple characters. It happens with both Kane and Mr. Nobody, where they will be fighting each other, and then a third party will come involved, and then like, all right, let's team up before we fight each other.
These guys ain't shit. They're not part of this.
Yeah. Let's take out these guys before we get back to the real fight.
This is about us. Yeah.
And that's
one of the reasons Scott Adkins fight is so fun, because the three of them are at the table and they're like, all right, well, but F this guy though.
Yeah.
They're all in agreement on that.
Because they're all just sitting there. Like I love that Donnie Yen knew what his cards were.
Yeah.
Even though he was blind. I thought that was so fun. And he's got that card table scene, like that whole Scott Adkins is wonderful in this movie. He's so much fun. And I love watching him do martial arts in that fat suit he's in. All the whole action sequence that follows is great, but there's so much good tension. You know, I talked a little bit about like Scream had such good tension. And there's some really good tension in the card scene when he's got all the cards and he's dealing them out and they're playing this game. And they all kind of like Donnie Yen, the tracker, and John Wick are like are kind of like on agreement at that point. Like, this guy's gotta die.
Yeah.
Mag brings up a great reference. Kane, clever with his weapon and the doorbell sensor. I did love the doorbell sensors in Osaka. I thought that was really good.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
I thought they were gonna be motion sensors, but like the door. Yeah. Oh, they are motion sensors, but the doorbell.
I like I like that we see him kind of not taking this battle seriously. We haven't seen him fight yet, and he's not really taking what's happening with the Marquismen seriously in the Continental until they kind of like force his hand, and then he just wastes them.
Yeah,
not the Marquis people, the Hiroyuki's people.
There's a great extended nunchuck scene, and I'm like, nunchucks are what a silly weapon, but like, wow, how they really are effective. Boy, howdy, just two pieces of wood stuck together, they will knock some people out.
Yeah.
Love it.
And that's why I think this film does really well, that the last film didn't, we talked about in the review that I recall that one of the issues that I had with the third film, sorry, second film's perfect. The third film when, it's like, okay, dog goes in for the nuts, shoot in the chest, shoot in the face. Okay, dog goes in for the nuts, shoot in the chest, shoot in the face. Like, we're just doing that over and over again. We're not really getting a lot of variety. Whereas the beginning of that very movie, there was the knife fight and the horse fight and the motorcycle fight and like so much cool shit. Like that beginning of the movie rules. And what we get more in this one is different weapons and different fighting styles. We get some martial arts, we get some nunchuck things, and the action scenes kind of are more varied in their length. They are still lengthy, but they're more varied in it. And I thought that was really interesting. That kind of brings me to a point that I wanted to make, which was that all over this franchise, this is not exclusive to this film, but Chad Stahelski is an incredible fight filmmaker. Like just pointing a camera and letting people do choreography, and it rules. and I was watching, not a knock on Star Trek Picard, but because it's a 70-year-old fighting a 50-year-old. So they're going to have some edit points, but like the difference between a lot of blockbuster action scenes where you're cutting around a lot of different movements versus just kind of letting your actors learn the choreography and trust that they'll do it and it will look good, pointing the camera at them. And I think that's what Chad Stahelski brings to just action filmmaking in general. And I think it's something a lot of people can learn from.
Yeah, sure. And again, it helps that he started as a stuntman.
Yeah.
You know, like they worked in the industry for a long time before directing John Wick. And again, like John Wick is so much bigger success than anyone could have imagined. And I'm so glad we're here now because like all of these movies could be considered like some of the greatest action movies ever made. But man, the stuff they do in John Wick 4, like it's just like specifically like the I don't remember the name of the place, the Arc de Triomphe. Arc de Triomphe. Arc de Triomphe. That scene, and then the next scene with the overhead dragon fire scene. Like those are some of the most inventive, insane, brutal scenes I've ever seen in an action movie. And it's just like, again, this is a movie where from start to finish, it's incredible, varied action.
And they fight the assassins all the way up the 222 steps of Montmartre up to the Sacré-Cœur.
I hope that stuntman who had to fall down all those stairs got like a little extra.
I want to illuminate for you guys real quickly. We walked up to the bottom of those steps. Megan looked at them and went, hell no. And we got in the funiculi that took us all the way up to the top without us going up the steps. And as we were going in that funiculi, Megan pointed out to me on the middle landing, which is the first place where John gets knocked down to before he gets kicked down the rest of the way all the way to the bottom. On the middle landing, there was just a dude like, there's a cafe there for people to just kind of stop and give up and maybe reconsider their choices.
Love it.
Like it was awesome to see them take that and turn it into this action piece.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
When because Brian, you brought up the overhead fight scene, and I know Ben brought it up earlier. The overhead fight scene is the most incredible thing I've seen in the franchise.
It is.
Period. Because it happens twice, and I swear to God, I expletived. I never hesitate to say exactly what the orgasmic feeling I felt. But like the first time it did the pan up to the ceiling, and then we see like the dragon fire breath shooting over, and I'm like, oh shit, this is incredible. And when it stopped, real quickly, Ben, I'm almost done. When it stopped, I was really sad. I was like, oh, I want to see that again, and then it did it again.
Stahelski has pointed to the video game Hong Kong Massacre as his main inspiration for this sequence.
Yeah, that's cool.
Which, if you look at gameplay, you're like, oh yeah, okay.
Ben,
I will say that's an amazing scene, possibly my favorite scene in the movie. I did get a little dizzy from it, though. I'm not gonna lie.
Interesting. Okay.
Normally, I don't get dizzy when I'm watching stuff like that on a screen, but when it went back to like regular, I don't want to like not from a top-down perspective, but a regular perspective, or I don't even know what regular perspective in the film is, but the one we normally get. It felt a little disorienting. I felt a little. I don't know if it was because I was sitting a little bit closer in my movie theater. I wasn't further back than I normally am. That was possibly why I felt dizzy, but I didn't feel motion sickness. I just got a little bit of vertigo. I'm like, oh, is the room?
You got too sick because the scene was just so cool. You couldn't handle it.
Yeah, maybe. It was a great scene though.
I could gush about that scene like all night, and I'm gonna. But like I love the choice of the dragon's breath being the bullets for that scene, because it gives such a visually interesting look rather than just bullets, because he's shooting fire and you see the fire come out of the gun, and then people get lit on fire. Multiple people get lit on fire, and it's a single take, and you're just like, holy shit. And there's no hidden stitches that I can see. I'm sure there maybe is, but there's no hidden stitches that I can see, which makes it feel so much more impressive because we're just following a single take of multiple people being lit on fire.
And you are right. Like it is so impressive. I was hooting and hollering this entire movie.
Yeah.
It was such a great theater experience. But the second time they do it, I didn't expect them to come back for seconds. Yeah. But we start rising again. I'm like, no way, Stahelski, you mad dog. Again, like, yeah, there are multiple games that use that overhead aesthetic, but like you rarely see it. Happens every once in a while in a movie, but like this was just so effective.
I told
So
Ryan
good.
the most recent time we saw like a long overhead take like this was Malignant,
Yeah.
when James Wan specifically had them build a recreated set of a house they were already filming in just for this shot.
Gabriel Malignant.
But I love it. It looks incredible.
Yeah.
Bill Skarsgård's I think the best villain we've had.
Yeah, he's I was kind of hoping that he wasn't gonna die. Like I think him dying is great. I was kind of
it's such a good moment when Winston's like, "You fool."
Yeah, and
when
the second I saw what happened, I'm
consequences.
Like, because I assumed because like they announced like 4 and 5, right? So I'm like, okay, he will be an overarching villain for the finality of John Wick. But like, no, they took this dude out in such an incredible, clever way. Consequences. Loved it. Felt so good seeing that dude die.
So I will say, just because Ryan just brought up that they've announced 4 and 5. So Lionsgate cleared and said that there can be a 4 and 5 John Wick. Stahelski and Keanu Reeves have recently responded in the press for this film and said that they're both kind of exhausted and they're not guaranteeing a 5th.
Give it some time.
This may be the end of John Wick.
If it is, that's great.
Reeves has already said that to him, at least what he's saying publicly right now, is that he is dead. So honestly, consider for now that this is the end of John Wick.
If it is, this is, man, talk about a way of going out. Like incredible. Like,
which we'll talk about at the very end. I'll touch on like why I think that's for the best, but just wanted to make that note real quick.
I mean, if they want to make a 5th film, they don't have to make it about John Wick. They can make it about Sonata's daughter going after revenge.
We know that the ballerina spinoff is coming.
Well, not just the ballerina spinoff. Well, not the ballerina spinoff. I'm talking because at the end.
No, I know what you were talking about. I was just saying that because you said you watched spinoff, and I was just saying that there is a spinoff coming.
Right.
So the John Wick franchise isn't dead. It's just John Wick is possibly dead.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Frack, I was going to say something.
You were going to say about Kane. We could, from the post-credit scene, we could follow a movie about them.
Akira.
There's a post-credit scene?
Yes, Ben. Ben, you should just know by now. It's Hollywood movies.
No, to be fair, this is the only John Wick film with a post-credits.
I Google every single time I go.
I had to go to the restroom. Okay,
I get it.
Then go back.
Ben, real quick.
It's
just Kane about to go to his daughter for the first time and take her some flowers, and then coming towards him in the crowd is Hiroyuki's daughter, Akira.
Okay.
With a blade.
Yeah.
Okay. And then it cuts to black.
So we don't see what happens.
Okay.
Paying off the I'll be waiting for you, or
right.
Something he says to her when he kills.
Right, but I do remember what I was going to say. I was going to say about Bill Skarsgård. I wanted him to die so bad.
Oh yeah.
I was like, when he does die, I'm like, yeah, F you deserve this. Because just the whole movie, he's definitely the type of guy who he's a pompous prick, but he's the pompous prick who knows how to use his power and he uses it well.
Yeah.
But he's also, he's not afraid to get his hands dirty, but he doesn't want to get his hands dirty, such as like he doesn't example of this, when he stabs the tracker in the hand and gives him a choice. So like, you either pull the knife out or remove your hand from it. Here's a choice for you. And when you
can pull the knife out or pull your hand away.
Yeah. And it's like, whichever one you pick tells me what kind of person you are. And yeah, just everything about him. It's like, I hate this guy. And then when he chooses Kane to be his person who fights for him, I was like, oh, F. It's like, screw you.
Yeah,
screw this guy. And when he takes I want the last shot. I'm gonna kill him. And then and then like he never shoots. He's like, consequences. Pew.
Yeah. The second I saw that Kane didn't have a bullet wound, I'm like, nah, I see where this is going. This is good. This is good. One of my favorite moments with the marquee is when it's with Winston, and Winston's talking to him like, hey, he's giving him the duel notice, right? And he's like, if you're the man
in the Louvre,
so good.
And
he's like, yo, if you're the man, And this is when the Marquis is like staring at the map, like, you know, away from Winston. And like, if you're the man who killed John Wick, the power and like the legacy you would wield. And he gives like the smallest like wry little smile.
So it's not a map; it is a painting, and it is a painting about a point in Paris's history where Winston is specifically goading him in relation to the paintings he's looking at, because he's saying the Marquis of history are often forgotten.
That's true.
But the man who kills John Wick.
And then he gives a little smile.
Which also plays really well into Clancy Brown's line later, which I love, which is like, a man should never play his ambition over his worth.
Yeah.
Which I love, because like that's exactly what he's doing. Like he's putting the value of himself to the high table way below what his ambition is now.
There's the incredible Warriors reference with the French radio dispatcher talking to basically like, hey, the Warriors are on the street, gang, go kill them.
Yeah.
But this time it's John Wick.
So good.
The scene in the Louvre pays off what Winston was telling Sharon about the guy who faced death. And I don't remember the story, but what is it? It is what it is.
Such is life.
Such is life. I really like when he's like, you know, what happens to the second in a duel. Such is life.
And I love that Winston is like fully committed into it. Like when we get to the end in front of Sacré-Cœur, which was a genius place to set up the end of this, by the way. Sacré-Cœur is beautiful. It is a great backdrop for this, and the way that they have this view over Paris. So when Winston walks up to him and he says, "Isn't that a beautiful sunset?" And they both get to just like look at it for a moment. And I have to tell you, it definitely was a goddamn beautiful sunset, because I've been up there and it's great. So that was so like, yes, Winston is like at peace with how this turns out. Mm-hmm. I love it.
Ben's right. It's sunrise, not sunset.
Yeah.
Did you guys see, this was something I didn't quite catch, and maybe there's nothing to catch, but the tracker has a list of money.
Yeah.
Of like prices. Do we know, is he trying to save up or something? Was he?
He's marking where John's at and like what he's waiting for.
Oh, I see. Okay.
It looked like the other page. It looked like a giant house.
Yeah.
Like I think he might be trying to save like $50 million to buy like a mansion for his dog, him and his dog. I think that's what like the thing was. So like, yeah, he's tracking the amount that John's.
Well, they also say like at some point that he wants to buy his way out.
Yes. Oh,
so part of it is him buying his way out of it.
Yeah.
And then having enough to do stuff after that.
Yeah. All the new characters are great.
And that's why he's like measuring and saying like, John, not worth enough yet.
Not yet.
Because he has to buy his way out and still afford a life of luxury.
When he so there's a moment where the Marquis like number one henchman is about to kill the dog, and John has a moment like I can shoot the dude, or I can shoot the guy, or I can shoot the other guy, and he saves the dog. And I love the moment of like of the guy like, oh, okay, respect, okay,
yeah, you saved my dog,
and it saves John's life.
And then John jumps off a 3-story building
and dents a van.
Oh my god, that man, he should be dead.
Yeah,
I love Kane. I love Kane coming to get him. I'm jumping around, but like Kane coming to help him up. It's like, I need you to get to the top of those stairs, John.
Oh my god, he just stands up. Okay.
Yeah.
Like
I love them fighting together. Dude. What?
He's a Green Lantern, unlimited willpower.
Yeah, it's like the stairs fight is incredible every single time they do it. But when it's Kane and John together fighting on the stairs is chef's kiss.
Yeah, they're basically doing like Arkham Knight combo moves, like when you press X and Y to do a Nightwing to team up move. Like he's throwing things into him. Like it's fantastic.
Yeah, I think Donnie Yen was an incredible character in this.
One of my favorite lines is when at the card table when they're trying to go for the big guy, and Donnie Yen throws a flashbang. He says, "Lights out, assholes!" And they all get flashbanged, and he's just like, "Ah!"
Yeah, being an incredible martial artist is one thing, but like having to pretend to be blind and also
second
be
time he's done this.
Artist, yeah, like just what a tremendous performer in every capacity. Love it.
Yeah, really good. Really good.
I mean, Donnie Yen was one of the highlights of like Rogue One, also, where he was also a blind martial artist. I knew he probably didn't catch that.
I did.
But I think Donnie Yen is. I think what the scene that Ben exemplifies a good way to just say the humor in this movie is very funny.
Yeah,
It was.
Yeah.
I agree.
And I appreciated the levity, and I think the humor in this one works in ways that it hasn't before. Not to say that there isn't humor in the movies, it's just I think the more of the humor in this movie landed for me than it has before.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I really like this one.
I also love the aesthetics of this movie.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. Yes,
I love how this movie looks. I love the gravitas of the just like, or the pomp and circumstance of everything. Like you see the Marquis, he's always dressed in the nines. He always looks good. He's always in this grand place. But also, I really love those really thick metal cards that they have, when everything was all set up for the duel, or to choose the rules of the duel, and how they pick the, like, if they disagree on rules, whoever has the higher number card, that's the thing. It's just, for some reason, just like the rules and regulations that the high table has when dealing with business, for some reason it just fascinates me so much of these movies. And it's just like, oh, you have to do this, like in order for John to be back with the Romo Rosca, he has to kill a random dude. And the rituals they do, like the crest, like branding themselves, or even when he gets his ticket torn in Parabellum. I know I'm referencing Parabellum Lies just because I just watched it, I'm sorry. And like it's this whole series of things that they have to do the thing, and I just find it fascinating, and I really like it. But yeah, the aesthetics of this movie looks great. Even the duel where they're sitting there, and the guns, I like the dueling pistols. I think they're really cool.
The duel works because it's incredibly emotional. We now kind of feel for both John and Don and Kane. We don't want either of them to lose. You want them to find a way to make it so that they both win, because you don't want Kane to lose his daughter.
Forrest saw this with us and pointed out that they very much have a good, the bad, and the ugly situation going on with the tracker and Kane and John.
Yeah.
I really like it. I was going to say that I value a lot the inclusion. I think in this film, at the climax of these 4 films, you've got John finally having to wrestle with the weight of what his actions have cost others. The way that comes across with Koji and his daughter, and with Winston and Sharon.
Consequences.
And John, I think, has gotten away with like brushing aside like his path being the most important, and what losses have occurred have not been losses that are that substantial, but now like having to reckon with like my actions have cost other people that I would say I care about.
The music, something that I haven't really, not that the music's ever been bad, but like not something that I really paid attention to besides it's got a good score. This movie specifically uses a lot more pop music.
I agree.
Specifically, it uses the French electronic band Justice's song during the stairway fight. That's like a very famous like electronic song from the early 2000s. I really like. There's also Nowhere to Run, which is from the Warriors and stuff. Like that was great. And like there's just more like crunchy techno in this. Like specifically during the Osaka fight, there's some like really good techno that like it's not the same type they use in the other movies.
It's a more robust score.
Yeah, it's a robust score. Thank you. Yeah, I noticed the music more in this one, which I just really appreciate.
Same.
I want to highlight a moment I thought was really funny, real quickly, when they're getting ready for the duel and they're taking off their coat and their vest, and all the bullets are clinking down on the floor. So good.
That's really funny. Yeah,
that was great.
I think the film's just very well put together overall, super well crafted. All the John Wick films are aesthetically pleasing and enjoyable to watch and look at. But I think this one capitalizes on very strong performers giving great characters. I think this has the most of them and benefits a lot from it.
Yeah. Should I rate?
Oh man.
I'll go first on my rating, if that's okay.
Go for it.
9. Solid 9. Amazing. A great action movie. You don't feel the length. I'm probably on a second watch, I may have a few more nitpicks here and there. But other than that, because I do agree with Sparkz, they do talk about how John's a killer and he can't run away from being a killer. That's they say that a lot. But other than that, this is an amazing action film. It's a fun time. If you love action movies, this is a really solid and a really great just stamp on John Wick. So solid 9.
I will give it a 9.5. Love it. Love it. Love it. It might. It's again. I just watched it yesterday, but like, I definitely like it more than 1 and 3. 2 is like the gold standard, but like this movie's doing so much more in a variety of ways. Like with enough time, I think this might be my favorite one and the best one. I think, but time. I need more time.
I say 10.
Yeah.
10?
Hell yeah.
It's a 10.
All right, and you even had a negative you wanted to bring up. It's interesting. Huh? You even specifically said a negative in the beginning.
Yeah, but I mean, like, I think that is a minor problem in this film and a major problem of the franchise. Like when you watch them all closer together, it really stands out. I think when you watch them further apart from each other, it's much less problematic. And I think in this movie, only once would it have bothered me. Because I watched all 3 the days beforehand, I was like, yo, like what? This is a lot of this kind of, but like as a singular film,
yeah,
I don't think it's as big of a problem.
Okay, I'm going to roll a D20 to know what my score is.
Did you hear? Brandon has given it a 20. A 20, friends.
No, this is 6. No, it's a 9.
There we go.
It's a 9.
I would have
rank the John Wick films. Rank them.
2, 4, 1, 3.
If you gun to my head right now, 4, 2, 1, 3.
Yeah.
Gun to my head.
Yeah. I think right now I'm pretty confident it's a 4, 2, 1, 3.
It's been a long time since I've seen 1 and 2, but I think I liked 1 a little bit more. But once again, it's been a long time since I last seen them. I think I would go 4 is up there. 4 is either number 1 or number 2. 3 is on the bottom. So 1 and 2 would be fighting for 2nd and 3rd.
Yeah.
All right. Shall we go into our book club?